All right, well, thank you, George. Appreciate it. All right, well, we've got all 7 gubernatorial candidates here. They're each going to get 90 seconds to introduce themselves and tell them a little bit about themselves. And they drew numbers beforehand. They're going to get 90 seconds. And Dr. Jim Hines, you got number 1, so go ahead.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for sponsoring this event. I'm Dr. Jim Hines. I'm an OBGYN. I've delivered thousands of babies. I'm a robotic surgeon. I do laser surgery. I was on the teaching staff of Michigan State University for 17 years. I'm laser focused on jobs, education, and infrastructure. My wife and I served as medical missionaries in the Central African Republic for 4 years, where I ran 2 hospitals and 20 urgent care facilities. I'm the former chief of staff of a company healthcare with over 500 doctors on staff, the former president of the Christian Medical and Dental Association with 18,000 members. I'm running for governor because although we've made great progress over the last 7 years, there are still things that need to be done. And I believe as an outsider, I can provide what we need to accomplish that, whether it's decreasing the cost of our auto insurance, whether it's helping our kids read so that they can graduate and go into one of these jobs like robotics that we talked about, and then fix the crazy roads. Oh my goodness, they are just getting so bad. And so again, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Dr. Jim Hines, and I hope that I can earn your vote on August 7th. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. For those of you who don't know, I like to talk a lot about solutions. After all, I'm an aerospace engineer, and the bigger the challenge, the better. And I've got a kind of a whole career of like dreaming big, but also achieving big. In the private sector, I helped design the International Space Station, and Patty, you were pointing earlier. One of my earliest projects was actually integrating robotic systems in the life sciences module when I was working with Lockheed. So I also, when we were talking about what I did as a state senator, I actually led the effort to make Michigan a right-to-work state. I helped turn around our veteran services from one of the worst performing veteran service organizations in the country to number 2 in the nation. And when you talk about what I'm going to do as governor, I'm going to be focused on bringing principled solutions that prioritize the best interests of the people of Michigan, not political solutions that satisfy all the lobbyists. And among these solutions are eliminating the state personal income tax and the senior pension tax right along with it. There's a way to go off and do this. It's practical, milestone-based. I'm going to go off and fix the roads once and for all by focusing on road quality. If you actually have longer-lasting roads, your overall maintenance costs go down. We're going to focus on making Michigan the center of a free market healthcare revolution. That's going to lower costs across the board for government and actually improve access to quality care for people of all economic strata. And there's a lot of things we're going to go off and do in regards to auto insurance and actually lower the cost of auto insurance by over 40% while still retaining the lifetime benefits for those who are injured.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you very much.
All right, Senator Gretchen Whitmer.
All right, well, thank you. I want to first start by saying thank you to the Michigan Press Association. This is your 150th anniversary, I'm told, which means that we've survived wars and recessions, and I think we're going to survive the Trump presidency too. The work that you do is extremely important, and I value it, and that's why as a legislator, as a leader, I always fought for expanded transparency, Freedom of Information Act being applied to the executive office, and real Open Meetings Act observance, and following through with the promise to the work that you do. I'm running for governor because I love the state of Michigan. I'm a lifelong Michigander. I love this state. But I look around at the Michigan that my daughters are growing up in, that our families are living in, and it hardly resembles the Michigan that I think of when I talk about my Michigan pride. You know, there was a point in time where people used to come to our state from Kentucky or Tennessee or Alabama, halfway around the world. People came to Michigan because in Michigan you could get a great paying job that you could raise a family on and retire with dignity. In our state, no matter what community you settled in, you knew your kids would have a top-notch public school education. You could turn on the tap and bathe your children as well as give them a glass at the dinner table, and you could travel the road safely and get to your destination. I look around at the Michigan that we're living in, roads that are crumbling, schools that are back of the pack, and I think we deserve better, and that's why I'm running for governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Attorney General Bill Schuette.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the Michigan Press Association for convening this gathering. Thank you, Kyle and Brad, Patty, and Dirk. My name's Bill Schutte. My wife and I come from a little town called Midland, and she and I met at the bus stop. When I was in 5th grade, we both went to the public schools, Carpenter and Jefferson and Midland down. She didn't have much to do with me, so she went on to, her calling was broadcasting and an accomplished career for herself, and I went into public service. Finally, I asked her out. She finally said yes, and I'm an acquired taste. And so now we've been married 27 years. We have a son, Bill, who's 22, and our daughter Heidi, who just turned 25. I'm running for governor because we need more jobs, bigger paychecks, and more people in Michigan. We're still 300,000 jobs short of where we were during the Great Recession. I want to cut taxes. I want to roll back the Jennifer Granholm income tax increases. I want to put a dagger right through that lost decade. I think that's why President Trump's endorsing me, because he knows I'll cut taxes in Michigan. I keep cut taxes across America. We need to cut out our insurance rates because they're too high, and our 3rd grade education scores, they're in the tank. That's not worthy of Michigan. You know, as Attorney General, I have an independent record of accounting, fighting human trafficking, and putting massive behind bars for life. Now, elections are about choices. Who you want to manage the state? Who's the next CEO? And which direction you want to go? You want to go backwards or forward? We're not going backwards. We can't afford another lost decade like we had under the field.
Thank you.
We need to go higher. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Schutte.
Good afternoon, how are you? Thank you for hosting this, and let's have a good dialogue. Next, we have 3 more months to the primary, and I appreciate. I am an immigrated to the United States in 1979, became a proud US citizen in 1988. I grew up in India in dire poverty. I worked as a janitor. I didn't get paid enough. I didn't get paid enough benefits. I came to get a PhD in chemistry. I'm a scientist that understands things like climate change and renewable energy and why we must not let Flint, Michigan ever happen again in Michigan. I bring a scientific mind, a mind of pragmatism. I've lived and suffered the same way as many Michiganders have, trying to make both ends meet, trying to take care of my parents' health care, trying to pull myself out of poverty, and education was the ladder. I want to be the education governor. I want to create the skill sets Michiganders need to do good for themselves. I'm a strong leader. I am the strongest 5'6" person you've ever met. And I'll bring that strength and the fearlessness that I've learned from my mother when we were growing up in poverty to Michigan, to lead Michigan to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Canada. Lieutenant Governor Brian Kelly.
Thanks so much. Great to be back with you, Kyle. It's not the first time we've done this cycle. I want to also thank the Press Association for all the work that you do over the course of the year and the role that you play in our process and in our system. My name is Brian Kelly. I'm Lieutenant Governor, but I had a whole different life before becoming Lieutenant Governor. I started out in banking. Spent about a decade in the banking industry, if you count when I was in the mailroom where I started. And but I worked my way up to Vice President. I made loans to small and middle-sized businesses. That was what I did for a living. And when I decided to run for office originally, it was because I saw a state that was tanking, and yet the strategy was built around how do we convince somebody from someplace else in the world to come in here and save us, instead of building an environment of success around people that were already here. And so when I first met Rick Snyder, the very first meeting, what we talked about? It was tax policy. And at a little shop, we talked about about what needed to change in order to make a statement to the rest of the nation. And that was the tenets of what became the tax reform of 2011 that took us from 49 to top 10, at least the best practice no other state has ever made before. In the beginning, our biggest problem was that we didn't have enough jobs. But today, no matter where I go, from the most urban of places to the most rural of places, I hear employers saying, I just need more people with the right skills to fill all the jobs that I'm creating. And that's why if you go to briankelly.com to see the agenda that's laid out for the future, it's all about our people, investing in our people, and making sure that Michiganders have everything that they need to take advantage of all the opportunity that the 21st century global economy has to offer.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. And Mr. Abdul Al-Khairi.
All right, good morning. Good morning. My name is Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed, and I am an eligible candidate for governor. I want to tell you about why I'm running. I'm a doctor. I had the privilege of rebuilding Detroit's health department after it had been shut down when Rick Snyder's emergency managers rolled through the city. And every project we took on, whether it was providing kids glasses, standing up to polluters, making sure that our schools weren't exposing kids to lead, every project led me to the door of a politician, and those doors were always closed. Why? They don't open for people like you and me. They open for the corporations who fund really nice lunches and fund all of our politicians running for office in this state. I've been now to over 120 cities, and across this state, people are asking the same questions. Who is going to fight for a $15 minimum wage and for union rights? Who is going to fight to make sure that every Michigander has health care? Who is going to fight to make sure that instead of giving our water away to Nestle, we're providing it for people in Flint? Who's going to stand up for clean, open, transparent, not bought out government? That is why I'm running. We are running the kind of campaign that is focused on real people. 10,000 doors a week we knock. And we've raised money the old-fashioned way. We don't take it from the corporations who bought and sold politicians for far too long. This is a movement for people, by people, as government was meant to be. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're going to rotate who gets to answer the question. First, Senator Kolbeck, you're going to get the first question, and then we'll move on down the line. 90 seconds. Do you believe the media has been fair in its coverage of President Donald Trump?
I don't think we have been fair in its coverage with most people, including this gubernatorial campaign, to tell you the truth. I think there's been a lot of false news stories that are put out there, and definitely not been fair to President Trump. And I think it's, there's a very precious right here in freedom of the press, and it's important to be fact-based. It's important to go out and do the due diligence, and unfortunately, for the folks that are here, you guys remember those little Mad Libs you used to fill out as a kid in school? You just fill in a couple little quotes. A lot of the stories that I found get written about different events are actually more like a Mad Lib, where people's actually filling in the adjective. The story's already written, the tone's already set. And for me, that's disconcerting, because our republic depends upon the people who are electing people into office getting good information. And it's incumbent upon everybody in this room, including the folks here who are running for office, to make sure that the truth gets out.
All right. Senator Whitmer, do you believe the media has been fair in its coverage of President Donald Trump?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to expand on it?
I will. I'll take a moment, just
Okay.
because we have so little time here. But I do think the media has an important job to do. And that is holding our leaders accountable. That is informing the public. That is making sure that we are operating with facts and not buying into spin. The media is an important check and balance in our system of government. And that's why, as governor, I'm never going to tell you, file a FOIA request. I'm going to make sure that my communications director gives you the information you need to do your job, because you have an important role in our democracy.
All right. Thank you, Senator Whitmer.
No, I don't think the media, the national media, has been fair to President Trump. Now, all the local media here in Michigan, I love you all. So, I just want you to know. Okay? But, I mean, the classic example is, President Trump came to Washington, Michigan, instead of the Washington correspondence, White House correspondence event. And look how mean that was, and mean-spirited that occasion was in Washington with the White House correspondents who covered the president. It just shows that they're out of touch. They use the same elites who look down on the heartland of America in terms of, the nitty-gritty, tough, plumbers and electricians and builders. The folks that built this state and the folks that need to rebuild our infrastructure as well. They look down on people who work. So, from my standpoint, in terms of freedom of information, I laid out my freedom of information and open transparency agenda. I had FOIA ought to apply to the executive branch, governor, lieutenant governor. I deal with it as attorney general, and it ought to apply to the legislature as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Chief Gubernatorial, do you believe the media has been fair in its coverage of President Donald Trump?
I think generally yes. But just like our whole country, the media has been polarized so much. I go back watching Dan Rather and Walter Cronkite. And there was a time where I saw the media was more impartial, media wasn't as polarized. And now we have the left media, and we have the right media, and we have the liberal media and the conservative media. Then you turn on a talk channel and you know what they're going to say. And I would really like media to be more fair, media to be more objective as opposed to taking sides. I was a reporter way back. I was 10 years old then. And I was bothered by the potholes in the town, and I wanted to write a letter, so I wrote a letter to the editor, and I was afraid to go and give it to anybody because how little I was. And so I'll go in the morning when there is nobody there in the press, and I would leave the letter on the editor's desk. And I started, and that letter got published, and I was really excited to see my article in the press, and I started keep writing that. And by the time I was maybe 15 years old, I had about 10 articles.
You don't count, I'm sure.
Yeah. But thank you for all what you do. It's hard work to do, but I would like a much more objective coverage for everybody else. But you're doing a great job in Trump.
All right, thank you. Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley, do you believe the media has been fair in its coverage of President Donald Trump?
It has not, and I don't see how any objective person could come to the conclusion that it has been fair, particularly at the national level. It's a gotcha type of reporting. It tends to lead with conjecture and unnamed sources at a level that I've never seen before. And what I've come to tell people when I'm asked about some sort of a sensational story about Donald Trump is you have to wait 24 or 48 hours, because in most cases there's other information that comes out that provides a more balanced view on what happened. And I think it's unfortunate because the media does have such an important role to play in our democracy. We're talking about First Amendment rights here. This is really important. It's an important right, it's an important responsibility. And in this gotcha style approach to covering Donald Trump, I think that it does a disservice to our democracy as a whole.
All right, thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Mr. Al-Sayed, do you believe the media has been fair in its coverage of President Trump?
Look, I think that's the wrong question. I think the right question is somebody who occupies the highest office in the land fair to the media? Because when you go around calling the media fake news, when you go around destabilizing what is truth from falsehood, you have to ask yourself what actually is truth anymore. I respect deeply the work that you do, because you've got to tell the story. You are the fourth estate. There is no democracy without a free press. And when you have a president attacking that very institution of the free press, you have to ask yourself, where are we as a society? But I'll just say this. The media and President Donald Trump have a bit of a symbiotic relationship, right? We cover him so much that all you see is what he tweeted this morning. And all I'll say is, there are so many other important things going on. As I've toured the state, people are not asking about the latest regarding Stormy Daniels. They're asking who's going to fix the potholes, who's going to make sure I have a job, who's going to make sure my kid goes to a good school. And I do hope that we as a community can have a consensus that this addiction to Donald Trump is not helping anybody, right? And the antagonism is not helping anybody. However insincere, however broken, however sad his approach to policy making and policy is.
All right, thank you. And then, Dr. Hines, do you believe the media has been fair to Donald Trump?
Well, my unbiased opinion is that I'm not fair. I will tell you that being an outsider, I didn't know what to expect even from the local reporters, and I will say that I believe that what's been written about me has been pretty objective and pretty fair. As I travel the state, I talk to lots of people, and they're frustrated by the news because they don't know what the truth is. People want to know, what is the truth? They don't want it fabricated. They don't want it changed. They don't want commentary. They want you to report accurately, this is what happened. But we all know that when there's an auto accident and there's two people to watch it, they come up with different opinions. And so some of what we see, I think, is a different lens on the glasses. You're seeing what's happened from a different perspective. And so as a citizen of this state, a citizen of America, we know that to get the truth, we so often have to look at different avenues. And that's how I handle it with Donald Trump. I love Donald Trump. I voted for Donald Trump. But I also know he's cantankerous sometimes. and he eggs people on. But the bottom line is, reporters have to report the truth. And if it's commentary, and if it's your worldview and your opinion, I believe the citizens of this state and this country need to know that this is coming from your worldview and not necessarily exactly what was seen or what happened.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Hines. Next question, we're going to start with Senator Whitmer. Do you believe it's important for political candidates at the state level to file a public disclosure form as is required by federal candidates?
Well, yes, and here's, I'll just expand on that a little bit. You know, we have a right to know who our public servants, who the candidates are working for. We have the right to ask those questions. I think that we need leaders who are going to be fearless about telling you what their priorities are, what their philosophy is, what their background is, who they're beholden to. You know, I worked for 14 years in the Michigan legislature. I worked my tail off to open up Freedom of Information Act, the Open Meetings Act. My mom was one of Frank Kelly's top lawyers in the Attorney General's office, and that was her job in the AG's office. We need leaders who are looking to solve problems in this state. I am tired of politicians that want to go into their corners and demonize everyone who doesn't see the world the exact same way. We've got serious and urgent issues we need to tackle in this state. We need to find common ground to fix the damn roads, to make sure that our schools are not in the bottom 10 in this country, but leading the world like they used to, and ensure that every Michigander has access to clean drinking water. These are crucial issues that we gotta be laser focused on. During my time in the legislature, I took on tough fights with my Republican counterparts, but you know what? I worked with Rick Snyder to make Medicaid expansion a reality in this state. I rolled up my sleeves, I got to work, I put the votes together, and because of that bipartisan work, we have 680,000 Michiganders that have health care coverage today who didn't before. I think that our priorities are something that the public needs to know.
All right, thank you, Senator. Attorney General Bill Schuette, do you believe it's important for political candidates at the state level to file the same public disclosure form as is required by federal candidates?
You know, I think what's important for everybody on this stage and all the legislators and elected officials in Lansing is we need to have openness and transparency between us and everybody. That's why I'm for FOIA expansion that will apply to the executive branch. I do it every day as the Attorney General. I would apply to the Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and members of the legislature. Every year since I've been Attorney General, I release my income tax returns. I'm an open book, and I continue to do that. I would encourage everyone else to do that as well. When I served in Congress, I complied with the financial disclosure requirements of members of the United States House of Representatives. I introduced bills when I was a senator to try to get that achieved and put into law in the state of Michigan. I would think we ought to pass that law, and when I'm governor, we're going to make a lot of changes in Michigan. And one of those will be is that I will actively push, encourage, and make sure we sign financial disclosure laws here in the state of Michigan. Thank you.
And so to be clear, Attorney General, that's a yes then to the question. Okay, so
Once we, I want everyone here to release their income taxes, and then when we pass the law on financial disclosure, I'll do that.
Okay, income tax first though, okay. Sri Tanadar, do you believe that it is important for political candidates at the statewide level to file that same federal disclosure or the same financial disclosure law that we have at the federal level?
Yeah, the quick answer is absolutely yes. We must. We must have, our state is last in transparency and ethics if you compare with all of the states. My biggest concern is the influence of dark money and influence of corporations and corporate money in our politics. Our political cycle is so long. People are announcing their candidacy 2 years almost before the election. And when that happens, there's a huge need for money, and most politicians spend 30, 40 hours a week collecting funds. And I think we need complete transparency. I, for one, have taken a pledge not to accept a single penny from corporate special interests. However, I will still take those small donations if you want to go to my website and click on it and donate. But we need transparency. We need to get rid of the dark money, and we need to shorten this cycle so that we don't end up, the money doesn't influence so much on our elections.
Thank you, Mr. Tanadar. Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley, do you believe that statewide candidates should file the same disclosure form as is required by federal candidates?
I do, and not only have I released my tax return, but I did complete the federal form. And I just want to point out, I mean, the hypocrisy here. Why put out a tax return and not the federal form? Why do you have to wait for a law to pass? I mean, what is it that's being hidden? Well, what we have heard is that, well, you can't really put out a financial disclosure. Bill Schuette cannot put out a financial disclosure form because he's put all his assets into a blind trust. Right? That's been the story. But it appears as though he's been directing the purchase and transfer of millions of dollars in offshore assets while Attorney General. I mean, these are the sorts of things. I don't really care what assets show up on the form. But if you're going to propose, if you're going to say in your transparency form, you can make this a platform of your campaign, and then not comply with your own plan, we have to ask, why would that be?
Okay. All right. Attorney General, please.
Now listen, Brian, you go around the state, sorry if you all have to put up with this, go around the state making false accusations that are not true. All my assets are in a blind trust. I comply with that fully and completely. And I've released my income taxes for the last 7 years. Do so again this 8th year as Attorney General. And you're so desperate, you're so behind, there's nothing you won't do to try to make false accusations of attacks. And it's because your record is of raising taxes. You stood by Jennifer Granholm and the Michigan business tax. Governor Snyder called that a dumb tax. You supported Obamacare. I opposed Obamacare, went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And you renounced Trump. In a moment of truth, you jumped ship. And so you're trying to change the subject. Those are false accusations, and it's pathetic.
All right, thank you. All right. Did you want to take your 30 seconds? Go ahead, sir.
It's his statements on the forms. And I would invite you to take a look. Those forms are out there in public. Signed by Bill Schuette while Attorney General. The control and transfer of millions of dollars in offshore assets. And so there's just you have to ask the question as to why not fill out a financial disclosure form? What are you hiding? If you're not hiding anything, then fill out the form as you yourself have proposed.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Elsaid, please.
If I can't just call the clear hypocrisy here that both of these gentlemen are running to shill out for a president who is the first president in modern history who will not release a tax return. I mean, all of it just rings untrue. I just have to say it. Here's the thing, I've already complied with the federal financial disclosure. I got nothing to hide. I live with my in-laws, for God's sakes. If I had any money, they'd have been stored. The fact is, the biggest problem in our politics, you want to understand why we don't work for people, it's because you gotta follow the money. You got millionaires who think that their money can buy them an election. You've got people who want to shill out for corporations to do their bidding when they get into office because they don't believe in the policies that they stand, that those policies themselves can actually win voters. That's the fact. And so yes, of course, you should comply with the highest possible disclosure. You should show everybody where all your money is. And at the same time, you should be honest about where that money is coming from into your campaign coffers. When you open things like 527s, when you're getting money from dark sources, all of those should be called into question because you gotta follow the money.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Elsaid. All right, Dr. Jim Hines, do you believe all state candidates should file the same public disclosure form as federal candidates?
Yes. It's amazing how money makes the world go round and how it makes honest people do bad things. I'm just saying. I have released the 2016 and we're in the process of releasing 2017 tax reforms. It's hard. It's really hard. You all sit there and think, oh, that's just a piece of cake. But just imagine, you're releasing the tax forms, you're telling everybody how much money you have in the bank account, how much you have in retirement, how many properties you owe. It's hard, but I think it has to be done. And the reason is because money causes good people to do bad things. And when you disclose, you're being transparent. It's a form of accountability. When you look at the Republicans running for the gubernatorial race, they have taken millions of dollars of special interest money. Millions. Now, Patrick Colbeck, thousands. But the other two, millions of dollars. I'm sorry, Patrick. When someone gives you $10,000, they want something in return. We have to be very careful. So when elected politicians, elected officials receive money, we should know about it because it will have an effect on how they vote and what they do. And that includes their significant other or spouse. We need to know if they have interest in corporations and companies so that when they vote, it's clean. Thank you, Jack.
And Senator Colbeck, do you believe that all state candidates should file the same disclosure form as federal candidates?
Yes, absolutely. But anybody who thinks that I got into this for the money is sadly mistaken. When my wife and I first decided to run for office, we were not rich. We liquidated all of our retirement assets to run for office. I took a 40% pay cut to go off and take this job. This is not something we're doing to financially enrich ourselves. You need money, go off and get the word out. Because the last time I checked, most of the folks that are with the media here today with their parent companies aren't going to give us free ad time out there, right? So you do need money to go out there, and that's part of it, is to balance the perspectives that are provided in the media and not in the media. But I think there's a bigger problem than this, because this financial disclosure talks about the current status and your status quo. It doesn't talk about what motivates people to put forward legislation that helps them out after they're out of office. We're in a term-limited environment here. And a lot of the people are making decisions today, a lot of the folks that I'm serving with right now are making decisions today based upon what they're going to get after this is all said and done. You're not going to see that in any financial disclosure form. You're going to see it in endorsements. You're going to see it in how they promote different policies. But that's something, ultimately, you have to vote for people that have high integrity. I prefer the Exodus 1821 model for who you elect for your candidate, but it's important to pursue integrity, period. All this money stuff is the secondary effect.
All right, thank you, Senator Colbeck. Our next question, and we're going to start with the Attorney General. Recent polling from Epic MRA shows that a plurality of Michigan voters feel the state is going on the right track and the economy is improving. However, more voters give Governor Snyder a higher disapproval rating than approval rating. Why do you think that is?
You know, Michigan, we went through a tough time. We were down on the map. We were, as if we're in an emergency room here, on life support. Now we've rebounded thanks to a entire Republican leadership team. But you know, we're still 300,000 jobs short of where we were before the Great Depression in 2007. And I want to make sure that Michigan goes from good to great. There are 55 counties in the state of Michigan today that have lost population in this decade. We have 8-man football teams. When I played quarterback, we had 11 guys on each side of the line. And the fact is, we've gone from 19 members of Congress, we'll go to 13. It means that other states are winning. Other states are growing faster than we are. Our goal must be to compete and win against any other state in America. Now, to do that, I think you need to cut income tax rates, roll back the grand home income tax increase. We need to cut auto insurance rates. You're paying too much. We need to crack down on insurance fraud and make sure we stop frivolous lawsuits. Those are two very specific ways to help out in terms of auto insurance. And we need to, for us to grow, which is our biggest challenge, we need to fix our third-grade reading scores. The fact that we're at the bottom of third-grade reading scores is outrageous. You know, America's supposed to be a place where it's a shining city on a hill, but if you can't get there because you can't read the directions, the future's pretty gloomy and dim. We have to have better apprenticeships programs. Not everyone needs to be a software engineer living in San Francisco. Thank you. So for us to grow, we need to cut taxes and make sure we have more jobs. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Tanadar, recent polling shows that a plurality of Michigan voters say that the economy here in Michigan is improving, we're on the right track, but Governor Snyder's popularity numbers are upside down. Why is that?
Well, there's a long way to go to bring and make this economy work for all of us, not just the top 1%. But here we have a governor who came to power saying he wants to run the state like a business. Now, the state is not a business. You're dealing with people's lives. And we've found that out when the emergency managers in Flint made a $150,000 decision not to put those chemicals in the water to soften the water. And this governor and this state ended up poisoning thousands of its own citizens, including children. And running the state like by spreadsheets and bottom lines does not work, and we have seen that. And that's where the issue is. We've seen way too much corporate welfare, giving hundreds of millions of dollars to corporations, and these corporations have no loyalty. We need to provide skill set to the Michiganders so they can do better for themselves, not bribe big corporations to come in and set up a shop here. We need to improve our education system. And now you saw what happened when Amazon, with all those goodies, did not come to us because they said, fix your education, create skilled job. And that's what Snyder has not done. I will.
Thank you, Mr. Kandar. Mr. Kelly, the recent polling from Epic MRA shows a plurality of Michigan voters say that we're on the right track, economy's improving, but Governor Snyder's numbers are down. Why is that?
We live in a very divisive political environment, and the way that the discussion and discourse around politics has been, it doesn't lend itself well to people in office coming out favorably in those types of polls. You know, I was out yesterday walking side by side with the governor through thousands of people, and happened to be in Holland because it's tulip time in Holland, and there was the parade, and the amount of positive feedback that was coming there at the governor was really something. And also, a shout out to my friends in Holland. I think I was the only gubernatorial candidate that made it for the parade yesterday. And you do have to dress up, but it's okay, guys. There is a problem though with the way that these polls tend to try and determine outcomes ahead of time. And what we've seen time and time again is that for whatever reason, there's this narrative like, yep, this is the candidate, right? And then the election comes and goes, and real people have their say, and everybody gets surprised. So I can tell you, just being out and about, the fact that we've got a state that's on the comeback, 540,000 new jobs, we have a 17-year low unemployment, we're leading the Midwest now in inbound migration of college graduates. We are now leading the Midwest in inbound migration of college graduates. Our kids and grandkids are coming home to Michigan. Right, so that, to me, that's the poll that matters the most.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Dr. Al-Sayed, the economy is improving. Folks are saying we're going on the right track, and yet the governor's numbers are upside down. Why is that?
Look, you poison 9,000 kids in a city like Flint, your approval numbers aren't going to be very high. You succumb to the Betsy DeVos agenda of privatizing public schools, your numbers aren't going to be so good. You trade off a small business-oriented, worker-oriented economy for the kind of economy that subsidizes big corporations to automate out our jobs. Yes, your approval numbers are not going to be so good. Let's be clear, it's a completely Republican agenda, right? We've got a guy up here who's argued in a court of law that you don't deserve the right to literacy in this state. Let me just talk about that. He's got a plan, and that plan is that we're going to build reading centers. Last I checked, those things are called schools. Don't put it out there. And the fact is that we've got to be thinking about how we stop the corporate subsidies. We start investing in people and the places that they live, which means water infrastructure, which means energy infrastructure, which means roads and bridges, which means investments in access to internet, and moving forward on a renewable energy approach. These are the things that Michiganders want. And so yes, I am thankful to President Obama, who came in and bailed out the auto industry in 2008, which led us to where we are. Let's be clear, the gubernatorial management that we have seen from this administration and all of those supporting them has fundamentally failed working people in Michigan, and it's time to get it right.
All right. Thank you, Dr. El-Said. And Dr. Hines, why does the voters seem to think the economy's improving, but they give Governor Snyder bad polling numbers?
Well, I think it, of course, depends on who you ask. As I travel the state, and I ask Republicans, they're very positive for Snyder. They are concerned about a number of things. And on the Democratic side, of course, the things that you mentioned. The issue with water is a big issue. Not so much with Republicans, except that when you talk about it and they find out that you spent $23 million to defend and prosecute with very little to show, and you realize that that's taxpayer money that's being used for that, you get a little upset. Maybe you get a lot upset when you give it half a billion dollars to what's happened in Flint. You think, oh, I'm driving on these roads and I'm hitting all these piles, boom, boom, boom. then you get a little angry. And the governor is the governor of the whole state, not just a select few. And it's hard to please everybody, but there are certain things that you have to see, and the people of the state have to feel that you care about. That you care about the auto insurance costs, that you care about the roads and the potholes, that you care about the education, and you realize that it's not just money. Money is not going to get us out of the educational reading problem that we have. And so I think those are some of the issues. When you put it all together, will decrease the favorability.
Thank you, Dr. Hines. And Senator Colbeck. Recent polling from FMRA shows the plurality of Michigan voters feel the state is going on the right track, the economy is improving, but Governor Snyder's numbers are down. Why is that?
Well, first of all, for the record, Brian, I tried to go to the Holland Tulip Festival off the parade, but they didn't allow me. So, and you think with my fiscal policies and fiscal conservatism, I would fit right in. But anyway, thank you very much. In regards to Governor Snyder, just to put it in perspective, he vetoed 2 out of my last 3 bills. We only have a 33% approval rating with me right now.
All right. Senator Gretchen Whitmer.
I remember you being this funny in the Senate.
Why do voters think that the state's going on the right track, but Governor Snyder's numbers are bad?
All right, so I jumped in this race 15 months ago. I have been traveling our state. I have been in 78 out of the 83 counties, and I'm getting in every one of them before this is through. Because here's what I know. Everyone in this state is important. And when you show up and you listen to people, you know exactly why those numbers are the way that they are. Every single day on these 15-hour days that I'm putting in, there is someone or something that happens that reminds me why I'm working so hard to fix these problems in Michigan. Not long ago, I was asked to come in and read with a couple of children at the Detroit Children's Hospital. We got done reading. There was a 5-year-old boy and an 11-year-old boy. Both their moms were there, and the 11-year-old boy's grandma was there as well. We got done reading, and the mom of the 5-year-old said, her son was Malik, and she said, she's running for governor. What do you think she should work on, honey? And of course, 5-year-olds don't know what governor means. So she said, she might be in charge of Michigan. What should she be focused on? And this child said, I want everyone to be able to read. Now, I don't know how many 5-year-olds you hang out with, but they rarely lobby for literacy, right? They want later bedtimes or more candy or more recess. But this kid's talking about literacy, and I don't think it's because he saw Betsy DeVos on 60 Minutes, but maybe. But the 11-year-old chimes in, and what did he say? He said, I want everyone to have clean water. His mom said, tell her where you're from. He's from Flint. I turned to the moms and I said, what do you moms want me to work on? And they both said, I want you to fix the damn roads. One mom was particularly animated, so I asked her, what happened? She was driving from Flint to Detroit to see her son in the hospital. 3 other kids at home. Hit a pothole, and it did $800 of damage to the rim on her car. She missed time with her son, had to come up with $800, which is a house payment, a retirement payment, or an education payment. These are the fundamentals that Michigan families need fixed.
Thank you, thank you. All right, we're going to go to the audience in just a second. We're going to play a little lightning round, and for the Democratic candidates, I know you guys have done this before, but we're going to go through some of the ballot questions that we're going to be possibly faced with here in November and see how these candidates would vote. You plan on voting yes or no, and we're going to start with Mr. Tanadar. Do you plan on voting for the Voters, Not Politicians ballot proposal, which is the redistricting reform initiative?
Yes.
Okay.
Gerrymandering has, hurt our democracy. I fully support that.
Yes.
No.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Are you kidding? No.
Absolutely not.
Yes, it's time to unring the rules.
No, and I don't think it'll be on the ballot.
Okay. Do you plan on, would you vote for this ballot proposal that's being circulated by the League of Women Voters and the ACLU that would let voters cast a no-reason absentee ballot? You can have early voting and allow for a party line vote option.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Absolutely yes.
No, there's a big difference between Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah, I think this is the party line vote option right here. Okay, we're going to start with Dr. Oh, wait, you want to use your 30 seconds? No. Oh, you didn't answer? Oh, sorry, sir. Go ahead.
The answer is yes.
Yes, okay. And it was a party line vote, as it turned out. This is not on the ballot, but a yes or no question. There's a bill in the legislature that would make English the official language in Michigan. Dr. El Sayed, yes or no?
No, and that's racist. Yes.
Absolutely yes.
You know, if we want to make this a state people come to for opportunity, we got to stop this foolery at the Capitol. Absolutely not.
Yes. No.
Yes, and as a practical matter, it is.
Okay. All right. Now, out in the audience, Lisa is with somebody, and Lisa and Dirk are going to get a question or two here from the audience.
If you have a question, raise your hand, or then I'll try
Robin Sermon, General Counsel for the Michigan Press Association, and I'd like to know what local, non-national news you consume on at least a weekly basis.
All right. Dr. Hines?
MERS?
Yes, good for you. Right answer.
Yeah.
I consume a lot of news. I start by reading the Detroit papers, the Grand Rapids Press, MERS, Bonwar, Lansing State Journal, Crane's Business. I read a lot of different publications.
Yeah, I start my day with news, Free Press, Garmore, MERS, Wall Street Journal. I check the Washington Post, New York Times, and Live. That's kind of how I do my day. Then I get exercise, have a devotional, and that's what I do.
Yes. All of these. MERS for sure. Conward.
You guys are really buttering me up here, you know. I don't control the mic now, Lisa does.
So for a change, I might get a good story from Kyle.
Thanks, sir.
But Detroit News, Free Press, all of them. Yeah.
Well, I feel like there's no love for TV out there. Channel 13 and Channel 8 are two channels that just happen to be popular in my area and the county where I live and the way that works out. But also the Iowa Sentinel Standard and the Hastings Banner are two that I local papers that I still pay very close attention to, along with the Lansing State Journal, Free Press, Detroit News, and MLive are kind of the regular rotations. Of course, every night I can't go to bed until MERS and Bonwar.
Sometimes it's late nights, too. Dr. El Sayed.
So the news, Free Press, Michigan Radio. I also watch 24/7. I'm also a big fan of MLive and MERS and Gongor, and also just for the Michigan fans out there, I have no blog.
Okay. All right, Dirk or Lisa. Anybody else with a question here? We got time for another one. One more. If not, I've got plenty.
Yeah, I'd be curious if candidate Rich Perlberg, citizen of Orange. I would just wonder if candidates could tell us if you feel there's a threat of Sharia law in Michigan, and if we can talk about examples where that's happened, or if you think that's a kind of a made-up issue. I just know how you feel about it.
That's a good one to end on, I suppose.
That's a good one for me to start with the microphone, right? A while back, I actually had a counterterrorism expert, former member of the Department of Homeland Security, Phil Haney, joined me with Kamal Salim, who's a former member of the Muslim Brotherhood. We had a forum called See Something, Say Something, where we walked through a document called the Explanatory Memorandum that's filed in a federal court case, the United States versus the Holy Land Foundation. In that document, it identified the goals of the Muslim Brotherhood. And by the way, just because it has the word Muslim in it doesn't mean it's specific to Muslims. It's a political organization. It's actually identified by Muslim majority countries like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and UAE as a terrorist organization. And you can't say it's racist to go up and call them out and say its affiliations with that is something of concern. So for me, it actually is a concern. And we walk through examples of what their plan is and their term, my term, for civilization jihad in society. And we talk about different threats. They would talk about an education threat. They would talk about a political threat. They would talk about media threat across the board. And Dawood Walid, I know very well the media threat is that he can leverage here in Michigan. So I have very, very deep concerns around that. Obviously, in regards to Dr. Abdul Sayed, he's got tangible affiliations with Muslim Students Association, which has been identified as an affiliated organization in that explanatory memorandum. And if you guys go off and look at Muslim Students Association across the nation, you'll find that they've had Al-Qaeda leaders speaking to their people, and they've also found out that, so there's some serious concerns around that, and frankly, this is one of those areas that got me ticked off in regards to the fairness of the media. They pitched this as a comment around concerns around ties to Muslim Brotherhood as a concern with Muslims in general. Love Muslims, it's not an issue. The issue is with terrorist organizations like the Muslim Brotherhood.
All right. Senator Whitmer?
Well, I'll just start with this. I am really horrified that so many people use issues like this to divide us. The greatest strength of our state is the rich diversity of our state. We want to make sure that this is a place that people come to for opportunity so we can grow our population, so we can diversify our economy. The Finns came to the UP, the Dutch came to West Michigan, Middle Easterners came to Dearborn for opportunity in this state. Now, I chose the Mackinac Bridge as the symbol of my campaign for a very important reason. It was built at a time when a Democrat was governor and there was a Republican legislature. People doubted if you could build a 5-mile-long suspension bridge on top of the Straits of Mackinac to boot. But our leaders worked together to solve this problem. They built a bridge with our grit, our brains, our materials here in Michigan. It connected our people and it moved our economy forward. And I think in an era where we've got too many leaders who are trying to demonize one another, divide us, and talking about building walls, it is time for us in Michigan to get back to building bridges.
All right. Thank you, Senator Whitmer. Attorney General Bill Sheedy, do you believe that Sharia law, the institution of it, is a real threat in the state of Michigan or America in general?
Rich, I appreciate your question. My job as Attorney General, as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of Michigan, is to enforce the law and defend the Constitution. That's what I did. I've taken 2 oaths as Attorney General, January 1st of 2011 and January 1st of 2015. Enforce the law and defend the Constitution. There's only one system of justice in Michigan, that's Michigan laws and Michigan's Constitution and the United States Constitution. That means there's no room for Sharia law, there's no room for sanctuary cities. It means we need to have a secure border. And that's what this issue is really all about. And there's just no place for it, Rich. That's my answer. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Attorney General. Mr. Tanadar, do you believe Sharia law is a real risk of becoming a part of Michigan or the United States in general?
I think the bigotry and intolerance that we hear in Washington, D.C., or we hear here in Michigan has no place in America. That's not the America that I know. We are a country of immigrants. Part of the reason why we are such a great country is the diversity that we have and the diversity that we celebrate. And as an immigrant, I fell in love with this country when I came here in 1979 and couldn't wait to become a citizen of the United States. And Michigan was the critical thing where I got my green card at the University of Michigan in 1984 that allowed me to become a citizen. And I'm devoted to our country, and just 2 years ago I sold a very well-performing business so that I can devote the rest of my life to public service. And I think our country is great because we are such a melting pot. And I think sometime also I would like to, since we have 150 voters here, please be a little kind to those people who have low poll numbers. So sometimes they create things like this to get some love from you. Thank you.
All right, Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley, Sharia law, is this a real threat?
I have confidence in our legal system and in our judges, and I can't say that I know every single judge across this entire state, but particularly in our Court of Appeals and in our Supreme Court. Actually, I have a lot of confidence in the Supreme Court, so we appointed most of them. But there are only 3 types of law that count in our system. It's Michigan compiled law, our statutes, the Michigan Constitution, and the Constitution of the United States. That's it. I have confidence that our judges understand and know that no other law plays any role whatsoever.
All right, Dr. El Sayed, is Sharia law instituted here in the state of Michigan a real concern?
I do solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state.
That is the oath that if any of us is elected, we will swear to. I take that oath particularly seriously because it guarantees me two things. A, the right to pray as I choose to pray. And for me, that means that I put my face on the ground 34 times a day. Some people choose not to pray at all. And all of those things are equally protected under this incredible document of ours. But in Article 6, it also tells us that no religious test shall be held over somebody aiming to serve under this Constitution. That is an incredible document. That is what my father came to this country believing in. An ideal that says that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal. Now, I knew that when I decided to run as the first Muslim American ever to run for governor, that I would face the ugliness of white supremacy, the ugliness of racism, the ugliness of people who do not understand the oath that they swore to or the Constitution they defend. But the fact is that I serve my country every day, calling it to the highest ideals of this Constitution because it is such an incredible document. So I do not believe that Sharia law is in question in this state. I do believe that the Constitution will always be upheld, and I look forward to doing that myself.
All right, thank you, Dr. El-Sayed. Senator Colbeck didn't want to use his 30 seconds.
That's actually with Sheree and also.
Oh, Sheree, sure.
First of all, Sheree, I didn't lead with this issue. Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed and his friend Dawood Ali decided to go off and push this story out in BuzzFeed. So you'll notice you won't see any mention of this on my website. But I'm not going to sit there and be silent when there is a genuine concern out there in our society that we need to be addressing. And just because nobody wants to talk about it doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. I mean, Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed is very clever. He tries to characterize an issue with the terrorist organization, Muslim Brotherhood, as an issue with race. Listen, I was talking with Kamal Salim, who's endorsed me for my governorship. It's not racist. He was talking about it as a function of religion. Well, it has nothing to do with religion. Just because he's got the keyword Muslim in it, that doesn't mean it's a Muslim organization. It means that they use that as a mask to go out and do things like he's doing right now, to go out and make it a victimhood. No, this is very serious stuff, guys. This is about civilization jihad. It needs to be up in awareness. We should have an adult conversation, not a simple name calling. I'm tired of name calling.
Thank you. Dr. El-Sayed, you want to use 30 seconds? And Sheree, okay? Sheree, you can get your 30 seconds first.
So I grew up in this state. And you can imagine going to school with a name like mine, you get a fair share of bullying. The fact is that I just don't pay attention to bullies. It's not worth it. But here's the thing. One of the biggest frustrations that I've had is that the assumption that there should be some sort of association between me and some dastardly group functions simply on the fact that I choose to pray a particular way. It is implicitude that is used to raise the scepter that has everything to do with context. Now, here's the thing. What frustrates me more is not that you have blatant racism on the part of certain people. But what frustrates me more is, in the words of Martin Luther King, is that one of the most dangerous aspects is not when bad people speak out, it's when good people fail to speak out. And what I have not heard is the Republicans on this panel decisively and swiftly call out this kind of Islamophobia, this kind of racism in the context, right, that they are running to represent a state that has the highest per capita number of Muslim Americans in the country. Now, you might not hate racist Muslims, but I'll tell you, Muslims definitely hate you.
All right. Sheree, you get 30 seconds if you'd like.
Well, I'm just simply tired of any identity politics. Our politicians have tried to divide us based on race or ethnicity, and we just have to stop that, and we got to focus on issues. We got to fix those roads, we got to fix our education. Let's get back to the real issues that matter to Michiganders, creating skill sets, creating jobs, and let's just get off of this identity politics. We don't need that.
All right. Thank you. And Dr. Hines, you didn't get your 90 seconds to answer the Sharia law question, and we're going to close with that.
Wow, this has been really good, and I appreciate your attention here. What I would like to say is my wife and I have been married for 43 years. I love her dearly. We communicate back and forth, so when I go someplace, she knows where I'm going. There's accountability there. I love America. I'm an American. I love America with my whole heart, my soul. And I want to protect America. And there's differences of opinion on how you protect America. But I believe that we need a wall to keep out bad people. Whether it's a solid wall or an electronic wall, but something that will keep out bad people. And I think most people agree that we don't want people coming here to kill us. So there's a sense that I love America, and I want to protect America, and I want to protect the freedoms that we have, the Constitution that we have, both Michigan and the U.S. Many of my friends are Muslim. You know, I was chief of staff to over 500 doctors. 200 were Muslim doctors, the finest doctors that I have ever met. They've been in my home. When I do international work, and have worked in Niger and many other countries in Africa, these are Muslim countries. And I have not feared to work there. So often the fear is the unknown, we don't know. It's appropriate, though, to realize that there are threats out there, and if you feel there's a threat, then it needs to be dealt with and it needs to be publicized.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hines, and that's going to do it for our time. Thank you to all.